All right. Welcome to a new installment of our show in the Your Future Endeavors podcast. I am Diavolo,
I'm Lunchbox.
and today we're going to be bringing you a bit of an interesting video. We decided to change it up a bit, um, as well as doing our weekly podcast. We're going to be bringing you some weekly top 10 lists, covering different topics, of which obviously um, our wrestling topics. But this one is a special one because we have the draft right around the corner, and we thought that it would be great to sit down and talk about the top 10 superstars who would be most beneficial from a brand switch through the draft. Um, and I'm really excited about this one because we haven't discussed it at all. And so I'm interested to see kind of like how similar our lists are, or how similar our lists are, or how different they are. And it should be an interesting video.
Yep. Yes, I agree.
Yes. To start off, we have some honorable mentions here, or at least, well, I say we. I don't know if you do, but I definitely have a list because, believe it or not, this was much more difficult than we thought it was going to be. Um, there are a lot of people who could benefit greatly from a brand switch. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my honorable mentions. The only reason they didn't make the list, at least for my list, is because I thought of a bunch of different factors, whether it be current storylines, like where they're at in the card, um, like how that could translate over to the raw to the like the next brand over and stuff. There was a bunch of different things. Um, that I thought of when coming into this, and so there were some that I thought would obviously be more beneficial than others. But I'll go ahead and start with some of my honorable mentions. I have John Morrison, um, just because I think John Morrison would be very beneficial from a brand switch. Obviously, going as a solo superstar, but I think before that happens, that feud with the Miz needs to happen. So whether or not they switch brands and do it, or he stays on Raw, um, it should it that needs to happen before he gets any sort of solid push. I don't think they should change him over and leave the Miz on another brand, and then just kind of like throw him into oblivion somewhere else. I think that could be what potentially happens to him. But I think if they did the Miz feud without Miz running away to Dancing with the Stars, then maybe then maybe he would have cracked my top 10. But I have John Morrison in there. What do you think about John Morrison?
Uh, I like that. I think that's a good choice. And now that you've explained it to me the way you did, it's make me think about one of my choices
Uh oh.
that I made.
Well, I'm sure you have a good reasoning for having that choice in whatever spot you do have it. But um, next on my honorable mentions list, I have Shelton Benjamin. Um,
Ooh.
the only reason he didn't crack the top 10 is because doesn't have he doesn't have any sort of direction. Um, obviously, like switching brands could help that. He would be a perfect person to insert into that mid card title scene. He could definitely work with some of the younger guys, get them over. As I mean, he tried to do that with Cedric Alexander and some others, but obviously, Raw's booking decisions were not that great this year. So,
Yeah,
so
that right.
yeah, so there's that part. But I do think he would be beneficial from a brand switch. But I also think he's somebody that would be like a throwaway pick. I mean, no disrespect in saying that, but it'd be like he'd just be switching brands and probably wouldn't have much to do over there. And so I fear that for him. But if he had more of a solid direction, he probably would have crossed my top 10 also. Um, yeah, what do you think about Shelton Benjamin?
I I think he's definitely worth an honorable mention. He's such a talented dude, man, and since they broke up the Hurt Business, they've kind of they've kind of messed up and not using him. Like he's so talented, he can put on really banger matches, and he can put himself and whoever he's wrestling over.
Right.
I think it was a mistake to break up the Hurt Business in the first place, because they could have easily been the bloodline of Monday Night Raw, um, and I think they're misusing him.
Definitely. I think they missed a huge marquee money match for Survivor Series by not including, like not building up the bloodline versus the Hurt Business. I think that was a bit of a mistake. Imagine some of the promos we could have got between MVP and Paul Heyman. Oh my God.
Oof.
Those have been really good. Bobby Lashley versus Roman would have been incredible. Obviously, we got a little bit of a taste on that on Monday Night Raw, which we'll talk about tomorrow. Um, but then the fucking Usos versus Cedric and Shelton, man, I think that's like an incredibly underrated match to think about because like they were they as in Cedric and Shelton were a solid tag team. They put on really good matches with the New Day, um, and a bunch of other teams. I don't understand why uh, they're not using him. Uh, Maybe it's just because he's up there and they want to give some newer guys. Well, actually, that's bullshit because they don't push any of the newer guys. So I don't know. I don't know why they're not using him. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I got three more honorable mentions here. I have Kevin Owens. The only reason he didn't crack the top 10 is because obviously I think he's a good fit into any brand wherever he goes, but his contract's up at the end of the year, and you know he could just jump ship to another promotion in which WWE shall not name, and then rejoin some of his old buddies. That's the only reason I don't have him in the top 10. But I think he would be definitely he would benefit greatly from a brand switch because he's someone that you could easily slot in to anywhere. He can put people over in the mid card and like the IC or US title scene. He can challenge for Universal or WWE championships. But given his contract status and the uncertainty surrounding that, he'd probably be on a top 10 list of people to jump ship from WWE to AEW. What do you think about that pick?
I wholeheartedly agree with you. That's why he's not on my list. As I was thinking the same thing. His contract's up in December or January 1, and I just honestly, I don't really see him staying because I mean, since his Universal Championship run, they haven't really used him properly outside of what his feud with Seth Rollins 2 years ago or
Yeah.
last year. Like they haven't really used him, even though he's over as hell. They haven't used him, and I don't think it would make a difference if they switched him to Raw or not because I really don't see him staying, man. Because the competition, those who won't be named by WWE are really doing good, and they're they're pulling a lot of the good guys away from WWE. So
Yeah, to a
I
point where AEW might need to have themselves a draft soon. I mean, they got so much talent over there now, and with the success of, in my opinion, the success of the 2-hour Rampage show, I think it'd be good to have like the two separate brands. But they've managed to work. Like one thing I like about it, they have so much talent, and not everybody gets on the card each week. But they show a lot of faces. They do really quick promos that are quick to the point. They're not contrived. I talked about that on last week's podcast, and it's really good to see because they can do like 5 quick promos in a row, and it doesn't feel like you've wasted a bunch of time. Then you get to the next match. So I think they've done a really good job managing how much talent they have over there. But if they get any more, I mean, they might have to think about, maybe doing a brand split or something like that.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, I completely could see one day where it says Kevin Steen is all elite. Um, and so that's the only reason why he's not on my list. Um,
yep.
Moving on to my next honorable mention, we'll get into the actual top 10 here in a second. I had Seth Rollins. Um,
Ooh,
and the only reason he's an honorable mention is because he's kind of similar to KO in the way that you could slot him in anywhere. Um,
And I think it'd be good for him to swap brands, but I don't see it happening just given the storyline. And so he's always going to be I think on a list like this, but given the storyline with Edge, and that's probably not going to continue until after um, Extreme Rules, which is fucking tomorrow.
Yeah,
So and with Edge is going to be showing up on the draft. I see them having a match. I don't know if that'll. I don't see it happening on Survivor Series or anything like that. I think they'll probably build it up uh, just somewhere more down the line, but we'll see. They
yeah,
could end up swapping brands and have their last match be a Survivor Series one-on-one, which would be cool. But um, yeah, the only reason he didn't crack my top 10 is because of his current storyline and the fact that you could really put him in anywhere and he'll be fine. Um,
yeah.
what do you think about that?
I can see that. That's totally understandable. Seth is one of a kind talent that, like you said, you put him anywhere and he'll he'll do good. He's an excellent performer. He's good on the mic. Um, he's he's like a key that can open any door. So he,
Definitely.
he he's really talented, and I think he'll benefit from wherever he's at anyway.
Exactly. The modern day Mr. WrestleMania for sure.
Uh huh.
So my last pick, and I'm going to preface this by saying the only reason he didn't make the top 10 was because um, we've seen him once do some main roster stuff, and he was not about it at all. And then he went back to his brand and was highly successful over there. So I could see him doing, I guess, more of a lateral move, and that person is Walter. Um, uh,
Oh,
so I was thinking about this, and I was just like, yeah, Walter really has like done everything he can in NXT UK. Um, but rather than him going, because obviously NXT is not a part of the draft unless it's going to be like a call up. They're not swapping people in and out of NXT right now. Um, I could see Walter going to the main roster, and I think he'd be good, a good fit there anywhere. Um, but I don't know if that's something that he would want to do. And if he does move on from NXT UK, I could see him doing the Kaylee Ray move, going from NXT UK to the States to NXT, and maybe challenging to be world champion over there. But I think, yeah, like I said, I think he'd be good on the main roster. But we've seen him in that Survivor Series match. He was the first one out, and he just did not look thrilled to be there at all. The only time I think I've seen him like have some fun or like have put on like a match that he really enjoyed on the main roster. I think he went against Seth Rollins once on a Raw, and it was a good match. But um, yeah, I just don't see him. I don't see him going to Raw or Smack or wanting to do that. And I think he's kind of like Tommaso Ciampa in that way, where he probably doesn't want to go, but for like probably for different reasons.
oh, I I can agree with that. You almost made me change one of my choices. Uh, but once you explained it, I could see it. Yeah, yeah. I The more I think about it, Walter's style also isn't a style that they use very much on the main roster,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'd be afraid they wouldn't let him be himself on the main roster. So I think a lateral move, like you said, would uh, be a good choice, but I don't know about the main roster just yet. One day, yes, because I think like one day a match between him and Roman Reigns would be a banger.
I mean, that could easily main event WrestleMania if they did it right.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Um,
So yeah, I
I,
mean,
I,
yeah.
plus,
I really want to put him on my top 10 list. I do so bad, but I don't think, like I'm looking through my picks and I'm like, God, who can I take off? And I'm like, maybe there's one guy, but I just don't think, I don't think, I don't think he'd really want to do that, but I obviously I couldn't speak for the man. I don't know how he thinks, um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
Plus,
yeah,
plus he's been on the UK brand, and I know a lot of people probably don't watch NXT UK outside of the UK. And I think he still needs a little. I think people know him from his recent matches
definitely.
with Dragunov, but I but I don't know how many people know him outside of that. So I think a move to NXT would give him more shine, and then maybe a main roster move.
Yeah, and I fear what they would do with it. Like to your point, like if he got to the main roster now, like he wouldn't be able to be himself. Like next thing we know is like they'll be strutting him out there in a leotard, having him like spin a baton or something. I don't fucking know. Like you know what I mean? Like I just that's what I fear for the guy. I mean
Yeah.
they did try to apparently due to reports they tried to like make Adam Cole Keith Lee's manager
Oh yeah.
and change his name to like to something weird. I don't know, but yeah, that was like a proposed thing or something. So I fear what they would do with him on the main roster. They would probably just make him look awful. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so those are the honorable mentions. Each one that they didn't crack the top 10 for different reasons. Um, yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the top 10. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and start with your number 10.
My number 10. I'm gonna. I'm going with John Morrison
Okay.
only because I think if if they switch the Miz as well, they can finish that feud, and he can quit doing that silly ass gimmick.
The
Because
drip stuff is so
Yeah,
bad.
SmackDown, SmackDown doesn't do those gimmicks as much as Raw does,
Hmm.
and I think on SmackDown he would be taken more seriously. I think he would be great in the mid card scene on SmackDown. I think him and Shinsuke could put on some good matches.
Hmm.
Um, I I just think he would benefit a whole lot. I think he could show more of himself from when he was on the Indies than what he has been uh, shown as on Raw. Like
I
little,
agree.
yeah, the little quarter shooters and all that shit. No, man, that's not John Morrison. I remember watching him in Lucha Underground and in Impact, and he has so much more to offer. And I think if he's drafted to SmackDown, he'll be able to show that.
I could agree with that. Yeah, I definitely think if they did switch them, it could be beneficial. But
Uh-huh.
um, that's another thing too. It's the gimmick. I think if they played more on his like parkour free running style and like incorporated that into his gimmick rather
Uh-huh.
than him coming out with the Dripstick 2000 trying to make everybody wet, then I think that would definitely be better for him. And you're right, they don't really do those those types of gimmicks over there. Like I guess they have had a couple silly gimmicks, but for example, right? When was the last? I think we've talked about this. When's the last time you've seen the 24/7 Championship show up on SmackDown? So I mean, Raw is like this show for silly gimmicks. So I guess maybe switching him over could give him a gimmick change and all of that. That would definitely be beneficial. So I could see why you would put him at 10 for sure.
Yep.
My number 10 is the one and only charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason that I put him there is because they have underutilized the fuck out of him on Raw. And I think like whenever people saw him running around for the 24/7 championship, and there was definitely some backlash about that. They found a way to insert Jeff Hardy into the United States title uh, into the United States title scene, which I guess spoiler alert, he's gonna be there on at Extreme Rules. They made it a triple threat now, but I think the reason they did that was because of fan backlash rather than the fact that that was in their plans originally. Um, but who knows? I mean, it could have been. But I think if like Jeff Hardy is one of those guys who can still go. Like it's not like he has like this long line of injuries. He's only gotten injured like a handful of times, and they've been later on in his career. But um, you can slot him in anywhere. He's a guy who is kind of like a Kevin Owens, who you could put him in anywhere. He could challenge for world titles. He could elevate people in the mid card scene. And to your point about John Morrison, I think he'd be a guy that you can uh, you can match up with like a Shinsuke or like an Apollo Crews or a lot of those mid like a Sami Zayn, and have really good matches in that mid card. And plus, he's had on multiple occasions that one of his dream matches before he ends up leaving WWE is with Roman Reigns, and I don't see them taking Roman off of SmackDown anytime soon. I don't think Fox would be okay with that. So, um, but I would like to see Jeff Hardy versus Roman Reigns. And given the booking that he's received on Monday Night Raw, I think going to SmackDown to him for him is a no-brainer.
I think you're absolutely right. Jeff Hardy is a top tier talent. He fits in wherever you put him. Um, he's still very much over with the fans. So the fans still get excited to see him. So you can still get good pops and stuff off of him.
Right.
And he still puts on decent matches. So you can still get good matches out of him. Um, and I I think he's really underutilized on Raw, and I think you're right. I think on SmackDown he'd be more beneficial. Uh, WWE would benefit more from him being on SmackDown than on Raw.
Yeah. So he's just for I don't know why he receives the booking he receives because he's he's been over with the fans for decades. He like to your point, like he can still put on really good matches. Um, and so yeah, I just think seeing him on SmackDown would be a lot better. And plus, I remember like whenever he was last on SmackDown, like some of those feuds that he was having with what was it with Randy Orton over the United States title or whatever. Like those are
Uh
pretty
huh.
good. He was getting his ear twisted with a screwdriver, uh, but, but they were still good matches. I think that was that Hell in a Cell that he had against he went against Randy Orton and that whole feud then. Um, so yeah, I think he'd be beneficial over there, and plus the people over there would actually probably know how to use him. I don't know if there's different creative teams or what, but they have a lot of underutilized talent on on Raw. And Jeff Hardy's definitely one of them. So what is your number 9?
My number 9, I'm going with Seth Rollins.
Okay.
I went with Seth Rollins because um, I think, like I said, with the John Morrison and Miz thing, they could just easily draft Edge as well. Or, you know, how they do wonky sometimes, just have Edge return to Raw when he comes back. Or or something like that. I don't know. Um, it's I think Seth Rollins would benefit from going to Raw because they have a big time heel on SmackDown already with Roman,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel like he's being over. No matter how talented Seth is, I think he's being overshadowed by Roman, and I don't see them taking the belt off of a heel to put on another heel, and they're probably not going to do a heel versus heel thing with Roman. Um, I just I think he would make the world title picture on Raw much better. I think he'd be a great challenger for Big E. I think him and Big E could put on some good matches. I think he could put some good matches on with some of the other Raw talent. But I think he would spice it up a bit. Uh, I think that we he would give us some new, interesting, and fresh feuds instead of the same old garbage that WWE Raw has been giving us.
Honestly,
Uh,
yeah.
and I think he could still be a top guy on Raw. I feel like he's been relegated to the mid card kind of on SmackDown because Roman is so big. And this isn't taking anything away from Seth Rollins. It's just Roman is so hot right now. There's no room for Seth. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I know we've talked about it before where we think that taking Seth away from Raw and drafting him to SmackDown definitely killed a lot of the star power that um, that Raw had for a long time. Because back a couple years ago, I mean, Raw wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't the greatest show in the world, but it still wasn't bad, right? So um, it's like I think he was essentially like Mr. Monday Night for a while there. Um, and I think taking him away from Raw definitely killed some of their star power. Um, and bringing him back definitely could bring a boost to that. And you're right about the Big E feud because now with Big E, like with Raw having the babyface champion, they definitely need some heel contenders over there. And there's not really a whole lot at the moment. Like you could say, obviously Bobby Lashley. Um, and then there's like Sheamus, who is someone that you could insert into like a main event scene and contend for world titles. But aside from that, I mean, there's not really anybody like overly established unless they tried to push some of the newer guys. So I think Seth Rollins is definitely a good 9. And but like I said, the only reason I didn't put him in my top 10 was because you could really put him in. He could go back to NXT and make it the A show. Like you know what I mean? Like he's just one of those guys. But I agreed with your point also with that he doesn't seem to have a place in SmackDown. Like obviously he's had some really good feuds and he's like made an attempt to go after the Universal title, but obviously Edge was in his way. That's where the whole feud kind of stemmed from. So I think that's a good pick. I definitely can agree with you there. Um, let's see, moving on. My number 9. I have the one and only Ricochet. Um, and the reason I have Ricochet there is because he's a guy that's received a lot of like kind of like stop start momentum throughout his career on the main roster. I mean, he's a former United States champion for one, so and I think a lot of people tend to forget that like they did put the strap on him before. It's not like they have no faith in the guy. Um, so it's been very annoying to see kind of um, where they've been booking him so far. Um, and I know like a lot of people like kind of talk down on his promo work. His promo work isn't horrible, but it's not the best either. But I think like given the fact that he's just a mesmerizing talent, and he's put on some really good matches recently with the likes of like John Morrison, um, for example, like those like, and he gives you those wow moments. Um, he's always a great competitor. Like whenever he went springboard off the top rope and cross-body John Morrison onto the floor, like that was a fucking like holy shit moment. Or whenever like in Money in the Bank, which was I think the last time he really received like any solid momentum at all, it was going into the match. He's getting pushed off the ladder, does a springboard, like plancha onto everybody. Like he's somebody who is a great talent. People love to see him. They're incredibly mesmerized by what he does in the ring. And I think if he went to SmackDown, he could have the opportunity to kind of follow a similar path as like Apollo Crews did last year, right? So, like Apollo was the babyface guy. He was United States champion. They ended up drafting him because they took the title off of him because of Bobby Lashley. And he went over there and he improved on his character work a lot, which was like what the big knock on Apollo like a year ago was that he didn't really have a solid character. And then he went in he went all in on his new gimmick over there and it got over, and he had a really long reign with the IC title. They didn't really book it that great, but now Apollo has a character, and he's definitely more established. And um, I think Ricochet could follow suit in that. He's definitely an incredible talent. He could work on his character work, maybe get back into that mid card title scene, maybe win a championship or two, and imagine seeing a match with like Ricochet and Ray or Dominic Mysterio, just like those two high flyers clashing. I'd love to see that. Um, and and yeah, I just think Ricochet would be a good pick simply because he could follow that similar path that Apollo did.
I I like that choice. Ricochet is so talented, man, so talented. Um, his work, I mean, like his work in the ring is so excellent. What he can do, um, like when it comes to high flyers, he's in my top three. Um, like him, uh, Ray, and well, Ray Mysterio and Ray Phoenix are like my top three, and it's sad to see because Raw doesn't really have high flyers like that, and they're misusing arguably the best high flyer the company has.
Yeah, it's sad to see.
Yeah, on Raw, yeah, and I think on SmackDown, a talent like his wouldn't go underutilized.
Yeah,
I think he'd do great on SmackDown, and I think like the people on SmackDown, like if Paul Heyman works with him behind the scenes, I can see his promo work getting better. I don't think that's an issue. I think you just need to put him with the right people. Like put him backstage with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman will get him where he needs to be promo wise. Like look what Paul Heyman has done with Roman Reigns promo wise.
oh my
Like
God.
yeah, like Reigns wasn't that all that good with promos. Like remember the first time he went up against John Cena,
I was just
John
about to
Cena was
say.
clowning him.
he he obliterated that man on the mic to the point where like Roman was like sitting there like sighing and like just not like he couldn't focus on what he was trying to say, like he was forgetting his lines, like he was it was like really bad to watch. Like sometimes I go back and watch that video now and like compare it to like what we see from the tribal chief, and I'm like, oh my God, it is really fucking night and day different. Like it is crazy, the effect
Yeah,
that Paul Heyman has on talent.
exactly, and I feel like Ricochet is somebody that can benefit from that because his in ring work doesn't need to be touched. His in ring work is perfect, or damn near it. But his that little promo work thing he's got going on, just put him with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's on SmackDown. That's easy.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to make him heel or anything or put him with Paul Heyman on TV. Just have Paul work with him behind the scenes. I think that works easily. Paul Heyman is a master on the mic,
yeah,
and he's arguably the best there is on the microphone. Um, and I think Ricochet could benefit from that.
definitely, definitely, and yeah, it's I agree. Having someone like Paul Heyman over on SmackDown, I think is definitely part of the reason why they're the A show right now, at least as far as WWE is concerned. Um, because you can't tell me like he may not be like an executive producer, like exactly um, like drawing everything up like he was for Raw like a year or two ago, however long it's been now. But I could definitely see like having his presence there and it not and having like not having it on Raw is been like a night and day difference because I imagine there's a lot of people with their writing like they go to Paul Heyman. They probably go and just like see what his opinions are on things, and he's not someone to shy away from giving you his opinion. I mean, he's definitely had a lot of shoot promos where he spoke his mind pretty damn well.
Oh yeah, Don't get Paul Heyman started, bro.
The only reason JBL was WWE champion for years because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays. It's probably one of my favorite lines ever said in WWE. Um, but yeah, I agree, and you just having him work with a lot of the talent back there um, is definitely um, is definitely improved the show a lot. And I know it's kind of earned Roman the right to kind of like work his own story. I think he said in an interview that he doesn't really follow a script, and because of that work now, and like now that he has a direction where he knows where he's going, he doesn't have to. I think Ricochet would definitely benefit a lot from that. Um, and you know, you know, people on SmackDown like historically remember when Rey Mysterio debuted? He debuted right onto SmackDown. He brought that high flying presence. There's been like some historically great high flyers to come through SmackDown. I remember the Cruiserweight Championship was over there for the longest time. You know, you had people like Brian Kendrick, Paul London, Billy Kidman, Chavo Guerrero. You know, um, some great wrestlers over there that were in that scene. So I think that he would, um, yeah, he would definitely benefit greatly from working with Paul. Um, moving on to number eight, Mr. Lunchbox, what is your number eight?
Ricochet.
Hey, that's a great
All,
choice.
but all the reasons we just said, Ricochet's so talented, man, and he's being misused, man. Like before he joined WWE, he was one of the hottest talked about wrestlers in the world. Then on NXT, he was one of the hottest wrestlers talked about in the world. Then he got to Raw, and just like I
Yeah,
know he's forgettable, and it's not his fault. But WWE has made him forgettable, and
I
I think
I think he's been strictly on Raw since he's debuted from NXT.
I believe you're right, and they've done nothing with him. They haven't given him the opportunity. I feel like, and I've heard them call SmackDown this before, but it's the land of opportunity, and it really is. A lot of our favorite superstars would have never been as over as they are without SmackDown. Edge is one of them.
John
I
Cena.
feel like John Cena. When the Undertaker's career was kind of getting a little dead there, they put him on SmackDown and they
Yeah,
revamped his popularity. He
I mean,
won the world championship a few times. Him and Edge main event at WrestleMania. Him and Batista main event at WrestleMania.
you got like Kurt
Batista's
Angle,
another one. Kurt Angle, yeah, like Rey
Eddie Guerrero.
Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, like a, a lot of them.
Hell, I mean,
Like
you could technically even throw JBL into that because he was never really like a main event player, and then he went to SmackDown, although it's because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays. But he did become a WWE champion, and he had a solid reign, and he was a guy that probably most people would have never considered to be a main event player, and he was
yep.
for a few years there. So even Jeff
Oh,
Hardy,
yeah.
you could throw him in. He was a world champion over on SmackDown. There's so many guys. We could go on and on forever,
Oh, yeah,
but
exactly.
it
And
really is the
all
land
of
of
them,
opportunity.
yeah. And I feel like Ricochet could get that same rub. I mean, I won't go on and on like we did just now about him, but you get the point. He's really talented, and I think SmackDown is the place to shoot him to the next level.
I completely agree. I like, what's crazy is I made one swap in my list, and I swapped my eight and nines around, and I originally had Ricochet at eight, but there were some things that happened on Raw that made me move somebody up the ladder a little bit, which is crazy. I guess we could say that we agreed on that in some way, and it's cool to see
Yeah,
that we definitely have the same opinion there. But yeah, Ricochet is it, just the fact that we could sit here and talk for however long about how good Ricochet is and the fact he's underutilized. I think it goes to show how beneficial it would be for him to move on in the draft. Now the reason I moved him down was because number 8 we had a bit of a split between a tag team, and it seems like this person here is going to be getting a singles push in the future now that their old tag team partner is out with an injury. This person is Shayna Baszler. Um,
Oh,
Shayna has been someone that I know we've both been clamoring for, and a lot of people in the WWE universe, internet wrestling community, and saying like she is someone who is like better off as a single star, and she's shown like how good she is as a solo competitor. Um, that's not a knock on her tag team work with Nia, but now that it seems like she's going on her own path, I think the perfect move would be to move her over to SmackDown now. Um, and imagine, if they rekindled the feud that she had with Becky Lynch. Now that Becky Lynch is SmackDown Women's Champion, and I don't see her losing that anytime soon. Um, but yeah, it's just Shayna is someone who has kind of just been I don't want to say in oblivion, but she's kind of been like in booked into limbo with this whole women's tag team division. Um, Two-time champion, right? But they haven't really had a whole lot of established tag teams, so she was just like I guess for lack of a better term, like the placeholder champion with Nia. And then obviously they've been teasing the breakup for a long time. And now that it's happened ahead of the draft, I think the perfect move would be to send her over to SmackDown, with it being the land of opportunity. I mean, hell, SmackDown did wonders for Bianca Belair's career. She originally came up from NXT onto Raw, I believe, and then got drafted over to SmackDown and became, she's a Royal Rumble winner now, main evented WrestleMania, women's champion. And I think Shayna Baszler could definitely follow suit in that. And it's time to see what she could do as a single star. Um, and like to our point, like we were saying, it's the land of opportunity. What better opportunity than to go over to SmackDown, um, strap a rocket to her back and send her to the moon.
I 100% agree. She's immensely talented. Um, One of my personal favorites. I loved her work in NXT. She's just so good when they let her be her. Um, and I think she would benefit tremendously from the draft.
Definitely. Yeah, we could go on and on about how great she is. I mean, she's her run in NXT, where she just literally ran through everybody. Um, absolutely, absolutely insane. She's proven it plenty of times before, um, that she can go as a single star, and I think it's time to really give her that opportunity, and to see her over there facing off against the likes of like Becky Lynch and sorry, Bianca Belair. I think it would do wonders for her career. So I'd love to see it. Moving on, we got number 7. If you'd like to go ahead with that.
My number 7 is Sami Zayn.
Ooh. And
Uh,
I'll go ahead and as a quick spoiler. This is actually not someone that I had on my list.
oh,
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I I picked Sammy because I think Sammy is doing excellent work on SmackDown, but they're not doing anything with him really. They have everybody else in the title picture and stuff. I mean, they've got Sammy doing this thing with Ray and Dominic, but that's more to push the story of Ray and Dominic and less about giving Sami Zayn the W.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I think Raw's mid card could benefit tremendously from having somebody like Sami Zayn on it. Um, Sami Zayn is a top tier wrestler. And since he's found his path in this new character, man, he's killing it. And I think that Raw could benefit from that. I think he could put on excellent matches with most of the mid card, and I would love to see him go 1-on-1 with Damian Priest. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing a feud there. Um, I I really like Sami Zayn. I've always been a fan of Sami Zayn. Um, and I think that Raw could really benefit from having Sami Zayn on their show.
I do like that pick. And to your with your points that you've brought up, I just had an interesting thought. It's like, what if they do swap brands with him, right? If he could easily revisit the whole like conspiracy theory gimmick about how people are against him, right? How he so eloquently puts it. I think it'd be a cool way to kind of reintroduce that because he's kind of steered a little bit from. I think it's still definitely a part of his gimmick, but he's not going too crazy with it anymore. Um, but I do like the pick. The only reason I didn't have him on my list was because I think I think kind of similarly with the to like with Kevin Owens, his contract's up soon. Um, but
Uh,
but I think Sammy would, out of those two, would definitely be more likely to re-sign than Kevin Owens. I think he definitely would be more likely to do that. Um, so I could definitely see why you would have him there at number seven. It's not a bad pick at all. But that's the only reason I didn't have him on mine. But I do think if it came down between the two and only one of them re-signed, I think it would definitely be Sammy over Kevin Owens.
I can definitely see that.
Yes. So my number seven is a bit of an interesting one. Um, it's actually someone who's a current champion. Um, but given given that this is all about like new things and we'll go ahead and say this is the first NXT person on the list. Um,
Uh-oh.
I think that given that the way that they're shaking things up um, over on NXT and establishing a lot of new players over there, I think that this person could benefit greatly from moving up in the draft, especially if they picked her very high. And my number seven is Io Shirai. Um, I think
Great choice.
I think Io is a perfect NXT call up. She's done just about everything that you can do in NXT. She had a great run as women's champion. She is currently women's tag team champion along with Zoe Stark. But I think obviously, you know, while it's not likely that she gets called up, I think or through the draft, I think it would be really good because she's an established player. She's put on matches with people down at NXT that are established players, with the likes of Sasha Banks and Bailey during the pandemic era. They had those strings of matches, um, and even with Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. She did win the women's title off of Charlotte Flair in that triple threat match. I think she's proven that she could go with the best of them, and I think if you made her, if it was made to seem like a big deal that she gets drafted to either Raw or SmackDown, um, it would do a whole lot of good for her. And she's someone that could easily step in and challenge for a Raw Women's Championship or a SmackDown Women's Championship and give she's probably someone that would give Charlotte Flair hell. Let's be honest here. Um,
Oh yeah.
and there is history there, you could easily book that how she won the title off of him or off of them. Um, so I think it would be really good. And like I said, she's done everything she can in NXT. She's proven herself against already established talent, even Bianca Belair you could throw in there. Um, so I think this would be good. While it's unlikely, they would probably have to take the straps off of her and Zoe first, um, which I mean, who knows what happens, but um, I think this would do wonders for her, and this is something that we had even speculated on after she lost the women's championship. Is like, is she due for a call up soon? Like that would make the most sense because she did go away for a while. So yeah, I really like Io Shirai here. Plus she would give a huge boost to the women's division over anywhere she goes. I'm really whether it be Raw, SmackDown, fucking AEW. Um, she would definitely give a huge boost and add some more star power to the division.
I agree. Io is one of my personal favorites. Um, she she has the most beautiful moonsault I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
And she's so talented, man, and she was an excellent champion in NXT. Um, I think Raw would really benefit from having her, because their women division's kind of
Right.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I think Io could definitely brighten that spot up. Um, she's such a great in ring worker, man. I think I think having her come up would be a definite good showing for WWE.
Indeed. Indeed. And yeah, it's she's like you said, is especially with Raw and the way that their women's division is right now. It's very um, especially now that like Bailey and stuff is gone. Um, over on SmackDown, they are loaded with talent over there. They got Tegan Nox, Shotzi Blackheart, Tony Storm, Liv Morgan, Carmella, Zelina Vega, Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch. There's so many people over there. Really over on Raw, you got Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, and Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross or Nikki Ash. I apologize. I don't want to misgimmick somebody. Um, so
Uh,
was that too far? I don't know. I don't care. Uh, but no, but she definitely would bring a huge boost over there, and she's the way her character is that she's kind of like the tweener, right? She's not really face. People love her, but she's not really a face. She's kind of like Stone Cold in that way, where he was just kind of like, Stone Cold was very much a tweener. He could easily go in between heel and face, but people loved him anytime they seen him. I think Io's shown that she could be a really good heel. She could play face well, but she's definitely more of a tweener. And I think there's definitely a lot you could do with a character like that. Especially like imagine her with the likes of like Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair and other people that are over there on Raw. I think it'd be really good for her career. Um,
Absolutely.
moving on, number six. What do you got for number six, man?
Uh, my first, my first of three NXT call ups.
Oh, you have three.
Dakota three, yeah. Dakota Kai.
Ooh, yes, I like that.
I, I think that her time in NXT is over. I think she's done all she's gonna do in NXT. If they're not gonna put the strap on her, why keep her on NXT?
Yeah,
Honestly,
I agree with that.
I think that the women's roster could benefit from having Dakota Kai on their show a
Uh,
whole lot.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. I,
Uh,
I I will say I actually did not have Dakota Kai on my list, but it was only because I really just want to see her win the NXT champion Women's Championship.
Me too,
Like I
but
thought they should have done it against Raquel. I think that would have been great. Um,
oh yeah,
but yeah, I agree. It doesn't seem like that's something they're gonna do, so they might
yeah,
just main roster her.
yeah. That's my thought, man. Is if you're not gonna put the strap on her, even though she really deserves it, I think everybody feels like she deserves it. Put her on the main roster. Let her help or let her benefit one of your divisions, either SmackDown or Raw. I think she'll do good on either one. Though I think it would be more beneficial for her to be on Raw because they're they're not doing anything fresh on Raw, and they really need some fresh matchups. And I think Dakota Kai could provide that. Um, and she's immensely talented. She can be heel or face, just like you were talking about EO. I really think that she would be of great benefit to the main roster, and the main roster would be of great benefit to her.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, she's definitely like to your point. If they're not going to put the strap on her, go ahead and put her in the main roster because I think there's a lot more opportunity for her there than there is in NXT, especially given that it seems like they are freshening up the roster and just kind of like moving in a different direction. Um, so I think she'd be a perfect slot over there. Although I mean, it's almost criminal that she didn't get a chance at the NXT Women's Championship. Um, but yeah, I think you're right on the money with it. She could definitely freshen up the division over on Raw. She's proven that she can put on really good matches. Um, she's got a hell of a move set. Um, I like that she's just all about kicking people in the face. You know, a good kick to the face is always it's always nice to see. Um, so yeah, I definitely think Dakota Kai would benefit greatly, and I think with her heel work, um, it's definitely it definitely would be a good move because she's proven that she, like you said, she can play babyface. So she's managed to be a very good heel, which I didn't expect. But she definitely came into her own as a heel. So I definitely like that pick. It is a good solid number six. Um, my number six is my second and last actually NXT call up. Um, and this man right here, he's been in NXT for a short time, but I think he is the total package and someone who would be a hell of a fit over on SmackDown. He'd do good on Raw also, but I think SmackDown would be a hell of a place for this guy. This is LA Knight. Um,
Ooh.
I don't think he's somebody that needs to be NXT champion or North American champion or anything like that. Um, he's shown in the short time that he's there, he's very good in the ring. Um, he's got a hell of a move set. Um, I love his finisher. Um, but it's like he is so good on the mic. Like and I know a lot of what NXT does probably isn't to a script, but I think he's someone that if they handed him a script, he'd just kind of take it and run with it, rather than just try to like read it like this off a script. I'm LA Knight. I'm here to beat your ass. I don't think he would fall into that at all. I think he's someone who would go onto the main roster and fucking kill it and put on some really great promos, have some savage feuds where he just gets himself over as this douchebag heel. Um, probably he'd probably be what not what LA Knight what Baron Corbin wishes he could be. Um, but I do think a feud between the two would be really funny, or even maybe if they teamed up and went for tag titles. I think that would be a good pairing. But I think LA Knight is someone who is the total package. And the reason that I have him at six and not lower or higher is because of that. If he would have been like a North American champion or NXT champion, he probably would be one or two on the list. But I kept him out of the top five just because his time there is short and his NXT body of work has not been too extensive. But he put on a great feud with Cameron Grimes over the $1 million championship. Um, he had great segments, promo work inside the ring, and he was able to cut, the like with the vignette style, like outside the ring where Cameron Grimes was his butler. Um, he's got he's got a especially with the Cameron Grimes feud, like he would he's like very funny without like trying to be, I think. So and he's a savage on the mic. So like I said, total package. And I think he'd be a great fit over on SmackDown, especially if you're going to build somebody up over there. He'd be a huge addition to that mid card scene. I can imagine him um, just talking a bunch of shit to King Nakamura, having a feud with him and some of the other guys over there. He's probably someone who could go toe to toe on the mic with a Roman Reigns right now too. Um, so I'd love to see it. He's a great heel, and And yeah, what do you think about that?
I think that I wish I would have thought of that. Honestly, that's a great choice. LA Knight has proven in his short time that he is the total package. No pun intended to old Lex Luger. Uh, I I think that he's got excellent mic work, like really good mic work. I think he could spar with anybody on the mic. I think he has incredible in ring work as well. Um, I agree with you. I think it's time to move him to the. Some people might say it's too soon that he should get an NXT title run first, and that might be true, but I don't think he needs it. I think he could go to the main roster as is and be a big star.
I agree. The quote unquote $1 million megastar. Um, he's just he's really good on the mic. And if you haven't seen a lot of his work down to like Impact and stuff as Eli Drake, um, it's essentially the same gimmick that he was doing then. So he's got a refined gimmick. Um, and I think having that translated to the main roster would be really good. Of course, a lot of what we're talking is if they book them right, but I don't think I think LA Knight's someone that's like undeniable in his game. Like I don't think there's too much you could do to change him at all. Like he's just so good. But as much as I would love to see him be NXT champion, you're right. He's not someone that really needs it. And he would probably be a hell of an Intercontinental champion.
I agree with you.
All right. Number five.
Number five for me is the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Yeah, man. I was trying to be hush hush when you were talking about her because I didn't want to give away the fact that I chose her. Um, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Shayna. I've talked to you a few times about how I think that they're underutilizing her. That she deserves more than she was given. I don't like how she was fed to Becky Lynch because Vince wants what Vince wants. I don't think she should be in a tag team because her character isn't a tag team person. Like that, her in a
Ooh.
tag team just doesn't work for me. No offense to her and Nia Jax, but I think she's better as a solo star. And you know, you've never really seen like I guess Nia was kind of a monster, but you've never seen a female that was like a monster. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen one like that in WWE. I mean, there have been like Awesome Kong in TNA and stuff, but in the WWE, I've never seen somebody brutal and monstrous in a female division like Shayna was in NXT. And I think sending her to SmackDown would give her the opportunity to show Vince why people are behind her, why people like her, and and why
Yeah,
she deserves to be in the WWE.
I completely agree with you. The only reason I have her lower on my list is because I have five names up here, or well, uh, in my top five, I say five, but I have seven names above her that I just think, uh, I think would be probably just a little bit more beneficial. But fuck, I mean, Shayna's she was undeniable in NXT, and she got fed to Becky, and then Becky went away for her pregnancy, and then they didn't really do shit with her. Um, they
Exactly.
they had probably a perfect opportunity to pair her up with Asuka and run like some great feuds there, but I don't think they really capitalized on that like they should have. And it would just be I think it would be a breath of fresh air for her and her character, and to have her go over to SmackDown would just be it would just be so good. I guarantee if she gets drafted over to SmackDown, you're gonna see a side of Shayna Baszler we haven't seen since the NXT days, and I can't wait for it.
I 100% agree, brother.
Um, yeah, so I'm glad we see eye to eye a bit on that. Um,
Hmm.
my number five is whew, this was a tough one because actually wasn't sure if I should put him in or not. But after uh, a long deliberation, I ended up actually moving him up from honorable mentions to number five, and this is Karrion Kross. Um,
Ooh.
and the reason is because in his debut from NXT to the main roster, it has sputtered a bit. Um, I'm not gonna say that he's had a bad showing. Obviously, like he's doing what he's told out there, but they've kind of killed the whole like the allure to Carrion whenever he moved up from the main roster to the main roster. Um, Down at NXT, he was built as this savage dude who loved to take pain and would run through you and kill you if given an opportunity, and put on some savage promos. Um, was a great NXT champion, as though although a lot of people didn't seem to like it, I really enjoyed his work. He's a two-time NXT champion for a reason. Even whenever he first debuted onto the scene, it was like, damn, like this guy's serious. Um, and I think moving him over to SmackDown, um, with their track record so far of kind of like with it obviously being the land of opportunity, and people really kind of coming into their own over there, I think Karrion Kross could get a lot of that allure back to his gimmick, some of that grandeur, that mystique, if you will. Even whether or not they bring back Scarlett, I think he could do very well over there. He's someone that you could insert into the mid card scene, run through some people, maybe be an Intercontinental Champion for a while, give him a run as IC champion, and see how he does with a championship on the main roster, and then eventually move him into the main event scene. Um, he is someone that I see very easily as a future world champion, but if he get continues to be booked the way he is booked, then I don't think he will get there as soon as he could with a switch to SmackDown.
I 100% agree. I don't think Raw is benefiting Karrion Cross at all. You know, I think I think that going to the land of opportunity, old SmackDown, would do him a lot better. I
Yes,
think that he would do great, and I think getting him into the mid title scene soon as possible on SmackDown would be great. Like I think him and Shinsuke would put on good matches. I think letting him do more of his own promos like they do with Roman would greatly benefit him. Not something scripted. I I would hope that they would bring Scarlett back because she's a big part of his gimmick, man. And
yeah. Which, by the way,
I
they
just
announced
think
they're getting married, so congrats to them.
congrats to them. Uh, I think I think he'd have more freedom on SmackDown, and he'd be able to show the higher ups more of what he can do and why he's popular, why people like him, and hopefully one day get the strap around his waist, man. Universal or WWE champion.
Indeed, and it's kind of like another point we brought up with Ricochet about having like go over there and like being alongside like Paul Heyman and stuff. I don't think Karrion Kross is someone that needs Paul Heyman, but Paul Heyman definitely has an influence in that backstage environment, right? So it would definitely, I think having him like in that environment, um, and people will probably like come to Paul and it's like, hey, what do you think about this? He would definitely make tweaks to where he sees Karrion Kross's character, because I guarantee you, um, and a lot of people already know this, is like, Paul Heyman has definitely has his eyes everywhere, and he knows, I think he knows how to get the best out of talent, and so he's not someone that like necessarily needs Paul Heyman more than I'd say Ricochet probably would need him more, but I think just having him in that environment would be so much more beneficial, because he would catch the things that they're like booking him into. And it's like, okay, well maybe if we did this rather than that, I think it would be really good for him.
I 100% agree.
All right. Moving on, we have number four. What is your number four?
Miss Io Shirai.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
yeah, buddy. I think, man, in my opinion, some people may disagree with me, but she's arguably the best female wrestler in the world. She's just that
Oh,
damn good.
easily.
Like, and I think she would brighten any div- either the Raw women's division or the SmackDown women's division. I think they would both benefit tremendously from having Io on their show. She's just that good. I would much rather see her go to Raw because I think Raw needs people, or especially women's wrestlers, more desperately than SmackDown does. But I wouldn't mind seeing her go to SmackDown either because there's less chance that SmackDown's going to screw her up than Raw is.
Right.
Um, uh, I I really really enjoy Io. She's an incredible athlete, and she puts on banger matches, man. And um, I think putting her on the main roster, there's so many fresh matches, and there's even a feud there already that you could revisit with her versus Charlotte.
Oh my
Because
God, yeah.
like you said, she beat Charlotte for the women's championship, and we can go back to that. Like have Charlotte beat whoever's coming, and then oh bam, have Charlotte. Oh, nobody can beat me. I'm the best in the world, and bam, here comes Io. Um, I think Io is a tremendous wrestler, and I can't give her enough praise for what she does in that ring. Um, and I know she doesn't speak English very well, um, but she doesn't really need to. Like the way she carries herself, the way she goes in the ring, I think all of that does all the speaking for her.
I
And
agree so much with that, dude. She's kind of like Asuka in that way.
exactly, that's exactly what I was about to say. You were thinking the same thing I was. Like people like that don't need to speak the greatest English in the world when
Hmm.
they go out there and put on matches that leave the fans not on the edge of their seat, but standing up, cheering at the
Chanting,
top
"This is
of their lungs.
awesome." Fucking.
Yeah,
It was like she's put on some good like the moonsault from the top of the War Games cage, and then whenever she did the dive with the fucking the trash can over her, it's like if there were
yeah,
fans for that one, there would have been a holy shit chant ringing throughout the whole the whole state. Yeah, I agree so much with all your points, man. She is just an incredible talent. Like you said, arguably the best wrestler, female wrestler, or even wrestler in the world. I mean, you could definitely put her up there with people like Kenny Omega, in my opinion. I think she's just really that good. And she's proven it over and over. Her run as NXT Women's Champion proved it. Um, and I just think she is a a surefire great addition to the main roster.
I 100% agree.
All right, my number four is the Swiss Superman Cesaro.
Ooh,
Um, and the reason I have Cesaro in this spot is because I think his run on SmackDown has given that his run on SmackDown has given him his singles WrestleMania moment. He had an incredible match with Seth Rollins. Um, he's put on really good matches. He had a whole fuck ton of momentum going into the 2021 Royal Rumble to the point where he was actually my pick to win it. I thought that they were going to send him to the moon then. Um, but the one thing that he did over there that uh, really what really surprised me is that he finally got his world championship opportunity and put on probably a top 5 match of the year candidate. Um, I wouldn't put it over like Walter Ilya Dragunov or anything, but that match with Roman Reigns at Backlash, I believe it was Backlash, was nuts. It was very good, and a lot of the promo work that went into that was also very good. And the reason I think that he could benefit from a brand switch is because right now in SmackDown he doesn't really have much going on. He hasn't had too much going on in some time, and I think it would be fresh for him. And I think now that he's kind of proven himself that he can be a main event player, and he's a really good babyface and he can play heel, I think he'd be great as a main event caliber guy over on Raw. And I think given where he's at on SmackDown right now, it would be very refreshing for him to go back over there, have a really good run, and I think this would be the opportunity where he takes off, and I could see him being a future WWE champion.
I 100% agree with you. I think he's kind of in this stale place right now because they haven't really done anything with him since his feud with Roman. I think sending him to Raw would, like you said, be very refreshing. He could easily gain some momentum back, and maybe not right away win the WWE Championship, but definitely down the line he should be WWE Champion. There's not a I think he should be a WWE champion down the line. He's just that good. He's an incredible in-ring talent. Has been for years. Vince is too damn stupid to listen to anybody.
Right.
Uh, I I think that, man. I think easily if you put the strap on Cesaro, it's easily going to be one of the loudest pops in wrestling history.
Yeah, I agree. And um, like Cesaro is someone that I could easily see winning the Royal Rumble or like a Money in the Bank, and and just just imagine the moment, like how winning the Royal Rumble did wonders for Drew McIntyre in his career and just kind of propelled him into superstardom and the pop that he got for that. I could see the same thing happening for Cesaro. And eventually, whenever he does finally, after all the years, all the adversity, winning that championship, it's gonna be. I think it would be an emotional moment up there with whenever Daniel Bryan won. He's so good. Probably the most underutilized talent in WWE history. Um,
Mhm.
but he's proven that he can go, and that he's worthy of being in that spot. It's to a point where like I thought that he could be the person to take the title off of Roman. Obviously, they didn't have that in the cards, but he could be that. He could have been that person, and I think he'd be a great person to have on Raw, be in that main event scene, put on really good matches, build up his momentum again like they did last year before the Royal Rumble, and maybe we see him take that home and he gets a main event WrestleMania opportunity. Um, I mean, we'll see how the booking ends up going into that, but I would definitely love to see Cesaro um, be drafted, especially if they do draft him high. Make it a big deal, kind of like the same with Io Shirai. Make it a big deal that he's getting drafted so high. That would put some momentum on his back, and then just keep pushing him through up till WrestleMania. I would love to see it. I think a lot of people would love to see it, and I'm glad that we can agree a bit on that. Obviously, any chance we get to talk good about Cesaro is a good time. So yeah, very,
Mhm.
very nice, very nice. Um, let's see. Moving on, number three. What is your number three?
My my number three and my final NXT call up would be Mr. Pete Dunne.
Oh my goodness, yes, dude.
Um, I just I think he's been in NXT long enough, and he's proven that his track record proves that he can go in the ring, he can go on the mic. He puts on matches of the year when he gets in there and they let him do his thing. Um, and honestly, I don't know. In this new version of NXT, I don't know if there's a place for Pete Dunne. I know he just recently started this group, but I honestly think it's time for Pete Dunne to be on the main roster. I think it's time to expose him to more people, show more people what Pete Dunne is capable of. I I think Pete Dunne is probably my favorite wrestler. I really enjoy Pete Dunne's work, and I would love to see him on the main roster. I'd love to see him go at it with Shinsuke or Cesaro or any other number of superstars. I think he could put on clinics with a lot of the main roster. Um, he's just so talented, man. I don't know if man, I just don't know about him. Sometimes he's just that he's just that damn good, man. Uh,
Right.
and I think uh, Raw or SmackDown would benefit tremendously from having him on their roster.
I can agree with that. Pete Dunne is not somebody that made my list, but he was definitely in contention for it. Um, I I think to your point, like kind of similar with Dakota Kai, I thought that it was his time to win the NXT title in that Fatal 4-Way. Um,
Uh huh.
I'm not mad that Ciampa won it. I think it's cool to have Ciampa be a two-time champion, and he's kind of the guy that could slot in and fill the same role that Samoa Joe was going to do in that time.
Hmm.
But I definitely think it was Pete Dunne's time. He's somebody that is always there. Like no matter who's champion, he's been breathing down the champion's neck for like a year now. Um, and I think it's definitely a potential thing that could happen because he did start the group. They did kind of disintegrate a bit. They kind of kicked Oni and Danny out of it, and then it's just kind of him and Ridge Holland. I could see where maybe his feud with Kyle O'Reilly kind of leads to him leaving NXT and moving up to the main roster. And to your point,
Hmm.
um, he could make some banger matches happen over on the main roster with people like with Shinsuke, Cesaro, hell even Ricochet. I mean they've gone at it before in the past. Karrion Cross. Now that he's on the main roster, they could go at it again. People like there's Keith Lee. There's I mean you could even try to run him in with Roman and stuff like he's somebody that I think anybody that you put him in the ring with would be a hell of a match. He's proven. He's it was a hell of an NXT UK champ. Um, but I think kind of the same. Like if they weren't going to put the NXT title on him um, as of recently, then I think they should probably consider him moving to the main roster if that's something he wanted to do. So I definitely like your pick there.
Thank you, thank you.
Of course, of course. My number three is Miss Liv Morgan.
Ooh.
Um, Now the reason I have her here and have her so high is because she is somebody who I see as very similar to as to like Daniel Bryan in a sense, where he wasn't really getting the push that he deserved or earned, but the fans were very much behind him. And I see the same thing kind of happening with Liv. She's been getting stop, start pushes for a long time now. Um, but the crowd is very much behind her to the point where she was, we've talked about it before, so when she was cutting that interview um, on the ramp and people were chanting, "You deserve it" at her whenever it was like right before Money in the Bank. The people love her. Um, she's someone that people have been clamoring for to get a push, get a main event opportunity for some time now. And I think that it could happen sooner rather than later. Um, Given the fact that she is finally in like a one-on-one match on a pay-per-view. She did have that WrestleMania match against Natalia. I think it was on a pre-show. It was the pandemic one, the pandemic WrestleMania. Um, but she's going against Carmella, who is a former champion, and I think she goes over in that match, and that could definitely give her a lot of momentum into going, in whatever direction that she goes. Um, but I think she would benefit greatly from the brand switch because also um, there is like a lack of star power over there on the Raw brand, and I think she's someone that could come in, um, do wonders, and plus, the one obstacle that she really hasn't been able to hurdle in her career, which is a story that they've told before, is Charlotte Flair. Um, and if you remember, she's the reason why, like she put on a really good match with Charlotte, ended up going away for a while, reinvented herself, came back. Um, they kind of did her a little dirty, bringing her into that fucking Bobby Lashley, Lana Rusev cuckold storyline that they had, but
Ugh.
she did gain some momentum from that. She ended up having a one-on-one match at WrestleMania with Natalia, which she did win. And she did go on to challenge Charlotte Flair later on, during that pandemic era, and she put on another great match. She's someone who, when she steps in the ring, she's very good. She's proven herself. The fans are behind her. She's got that Daniel Bryan effect to her, and I think just switching brands and giving her something fresh, and taking her away from Carmella and Zelina Vega and all that's going on right now would be really good for her in her career. Having her go against people like Charlotte Flair or Alexa Bliss or even Shayna Baszler. There's so much opportunity there for her to grow, and I think it would be an incredible thing for them to do if they decided to pull the trigger on it.
I think you're right. You want to know what she is? She's my number two. That's what she is.
Really?
Uh, really, like when you said you had her high on your list, I was like, me too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Yeah.
so just transitioning into that, my number two is Liv Morgan. Just to continue off what you were saying, like she is so incredibly talented. She has she was doing good before, and she reinvented herself. And she's so over with the fans, man. The fans want to see her get pushed so bad it's not even funny.
Yeah,
Um,
like I remember like people were like clamoring for her like whenever she was doing those vignettes, they thought that they were going to pair her alongside Bray Wyatt in the Fiend, and you know how like excited people were to see that, like it goes to show like just how over she really is.
oh yeah, like she's incredibly talented. She's incredibly over. Um, she keeps herself over with the fans. Uh, she's constantly out there proving herself to be one of the best at what she does. Um, I think it's time for her to get that push, and I think if they send her to the Raw roster, she would do good there, and it would be refreshing. Not the
Yes.
same old matches. I know we've said that a lot during this, but it's true. We need refreshing stuff from WWE, and especially the Raw Women's Division. I think, and I think Liv would give us that. She'd give us those refreshing matches, new stuff, not the same old stuff we've been getting the last 6, 7, 8 months.
Right. Yeah. I agree. And one thing that I don't hear a lot of people actually talk to her about is that she's not bad on the mic either. Like
Oh,
she can hold her own on the mic. I think she could spar very well with just about anybody. And I think she's proven that as well. And she's that's because that she's kind of come into her own with her character work. 'Cause I love the pick. I love the number two pick. I think it just the way that she's been used has not been great. It's been Daniel Bryan esque in a way. I
hmm
think I agree wholeheartedly. This would be refreshing, and it'd be great for her career. And I think in the time that she has had her little stop start on SmackDown, she has really done nothing but continue to improve herself and improve and prove herself. Um, and the fact that every time she comes out, that the fans are still behind her, and people are like, whenever she's gone, people are wondering where she's at. It just goes to show that she is over, and it's time to pull the trigger on her, man. It really is.
I I 100% agree. That's why she's such a high pick for me. Is I think it's time for her to get that push she deserves, to get that championship run she deserves. I don't know what else she has to do to prove to Vince McMahon and his creative team that she's ready for it.
Right.
Uh, I, maybe he needs to be slapped upside the head with a sausage or something. Uh,
Something.
yeah, 'cause-
I don't know why I just got the image of you've seen Game of Thrones. You know the scene where Ramsay's torturing Theon, and he wiggles the sausage at him. Like that's
yeah,
that's what popped into my head for some reason. I don't know why. Um, but uh, but yeah, man. Yeah, I can't get the I can't get the image out of my mind. Oh, what I was gonna follow that up with was and it's kind of criminal that she didn't get the chance to be tag champs with Ruby Riott. Um,
oh,
the fact that they were really the only like established tag team uh, in that division, and then they just kept getting overlooked and overlooked. And I mean, Ruby's doing great things over in AEW now, but I think the fact that they didn't have a chance to at least win that title once is criminal, and I think they should have had that opportunity at WrestleMania last year, or this year rather.
I 100% agree.
Yes, that was your number two. I think you're gonna like my number two. It
Okay.
is Mr. Keith Lee. Um, like he did spend a lot of time away because he was ill. I believe yeah, I think he got COVID, and then what is it, like he had like problems with his heart, right? Um,
Hmm.
uh, he uh, he is a talent that is 100% undeniable. You cannot tell me that Keith Lee is not a good wrestler. And since his call up, he had some pretty good momentum at the start. He came in. He won a he. It was like right after WrestleMania. He came in. He won a singles match against Randy Orton on a pay-per-view. Um, he's he was at a point in that conversation for being a WWE champion, and I think before he was sick and ended up having to step away from the ring for a while. He was the guy that was going to end up taking the United States Championship off of Bobby Lashley at what was it, Elimination Chamber. Um,
Hmm.
I think he was the guy that they had on the top of their list over Riddle to um, to do that. So, but since he's returned, he's had a couple matches. I know he's been wrestling some dark matches. He's probably still trying to acclimate to the ring. But he's had a couple matches with Karrion Cross. I think he went 1-1 against him. And he's had some other matches. Uh, I think he lost to Bobby Lashley in his return, even though he did look good being back in the ring. But I think swapping him over to SmackDown, we've brought this up a lot this episode. With it being the land of opportunity over there, he is somebody who I could see go over there, stand toe to toe with the best of them, and really bring some juice back into his career. And let's not forget, it's not like they don't think highly of the man. Remember Survivor Series? Who were the last two men standing in that match? It was Keith Lee and Roman Reigns. Uh, Keith Lee and Roman Reigns were the last two there, and I think he is somebody that could give Roman some fits if they booked it right, and he's done nothing but put on incredible matches in his entire career. You watch any match between him and Dijakovic, it's gonna blow you away. That takeover one they did, I can't remember the number, but it's what was it, takeover 28, 29 something, where they went for like 30 minutes and were just beating the unholy hell out of each other. Um, He's he's an undeniable talent, great in the ring. Someone that people have been clamoring for to be in that top spot. Whenever he got called up from the from NXT to the main roster, that's exactly where they thought he was going to be, and he kind of proved that he can be there. He's gone with the best of them, with the likes of Roman Reigns. He's put on great matches with Karrion Kross. He's put on great matches with Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. Um, I remember he stood toe to toe with Brock Lesnar in the ring in the Royal Rumble. So he's an incredible talent. I don't think they think low of him. I think with the illness and stuff that he is still trying to get acclimated back into the ring. But I think if he goes to SmackDown, you could see a rocket get strapped to his back immediately.
I 100% agree with you. So much so that
That's
I
your
made
number
Keith.
one.
That's my number one. Keith Lee. I know that I said Pete Dunne is probably my favorite wrestler, but if anybody has an argument to be my favorite wrestler, it's Keith Lee. Keith Lee is an incredible talent. Um, he puts on matches that are second to none. Like you say, any of his go back and watch any of his matches with Dijakovic and watch how he just them two just tear the roof off the place. They're both so talented, man. And Keith Lee, I mean, I know he's been sick. He's been getting his health straight. But since he's been back, they haven't really done anything with him on Raw. And I think, like you said, SmackDown's the land of opportunity, and I think SmackDown's the perfect place for. And I think him and Roman Reigns, especially current day Roman Reigns, could put on bangers. And honestly, I think Keith Lee could definitely be a future Universal Champion. I think he'd be great at that. Um,
Indeed, indeed. He's like he would just be so good over there, and he could spar with anybody verbally as well. He's good on the mic. Um, So yeah, I'd love to see it, man. I had a sneaking suspicion that that was gonna be your number one. I had a feeling from from whenever we was talked about this because Keith Lee is someone that we've talked about extensively, in our private conversations and on the podcast before. I believe we've had plenty of conversations about him. Um, it's he's undeniable. Um, and I would love to see him go to SmackDown and get a rocket strapped to his back. Um, Now, there's one reason I didn't have him as my number one, and that's because this man here is a former champion who, as of late on Raw, has kind of found himself in a bit of a weird place with his booking, and this person is Drew McIntyre. I think I think Drew is and obviously an incredible talent. He's proven WWE champion. What? How many times now? Was it been two times? Um, he's he was an incredible champion. He damn near carried Raw through the pandemic era, um, and he didn't really get the championship opportunity that he kind of deserved being within the pandemic era. He didn't get to win it in front of fans and whatnot. Um, but he had an incredible run going into WrestleMania 36 and after. Um, and up until even like he had an incredible feud with Randy Orton. Probably went on a little bit too long, but it was still really good. Won the title back off. He lost the title, won it back off of Randy, and I think he's a proven talent. But the thing with him, and like I brought up with his booking, is that they did the whole Bobby Lashley feud, and they did it for so long, and they didn't really have anything for him afterwards. They had the stipulation where if he lost to Bobby, he couldn't go for the WWE Championship anymore. I thought that was a mistake. Um,
mm-hmm.
I think they could have had him step away for a while and then come back, like step away, do the feud with Jinder and Sheamus or whatever, and then eventually come back and challenge Bobby. But he's not able to challenge Bobby Lashley. He was not able to challenge Bobby Lashley for that WWE Championship, and it kind of put him in this weird like limbo state with his booking. He had the feud with Jinder where he was booked to essentially swing his sword at them and literally try to Jon Snow a motherfucker. That's what we said in our in
Literally.
our in our first episode. He's trying to decapitate somebody. And then afterwards, he kind of had like a little bit of a thing with Sheamus. He was kind of in the United States title picture for a couple weeks, but he hasn't had anything solid. And I think he would be a great addition over on SmackDown because, well, Roman and Drew is a match that you could easily build up for WrestleMania, and I think Drew could be the person to take the title off of him. Whether or not it be the Demon or Brock Lesnar who does that, but having him over there, I think, would just be a bit refreshing. Um, and given, like I said, given the state of his booking, um, he has more opportunity over there to do new feuds, kind of get away from the old stuff, and kind of establish himself again as that top player. And they did kind of tease us a little bit with a potential Roman and Drew feud down the line with their match at Survivor Series. Um, and so I think Drew is the perfect pick in my opinion to go over to SmackDown right now.
Honestly, that's a really good pick, man. I think Drew has kind of lost his way a little bit since being taken out of the title picture. They haven't really done much with him. Like you said, they had him try to Jon Snow people, but outside of that, they've not really done much with him, which is a shame
The King of the
because
North.
he he like you said, he carried WWE through the pandemic. Uh, he he was an excellent champion. Um, he was over as all get out, and I think it's uh, an injustice to him the way they've been using him lately. I think he deserves way more. I think he deserves better feuds than getting having a feud with his old buddy Jinder that goes nowhere really. Um,
Yeah, yeah. The booking in that was abysmal.
oh yeah, like I think they could have. Not saying. I think the idea of Jinder versus Drew was a good idea. I think the direction they took it was terrible. Um,
They had an easy story that they could have done, and they just decided to go in a different direction for whatever reason, which
exactly.
I still don't understand it. Like looking back on it, like I feel like my brain is like TV static trying to think about why they did it. But they do what they do over there on Raw, I guess.
True.
They just gotta do what it is that they do. Um, oh, just unplugged my mic on accident. Um, but no, yeah, yeah, he's somebody that would benefit a lot going over there. Um, and he would give Roman a lot of fits. The only reason I probably wouldn't do it though is they do have a lot of star power, but I could see them probably trying to even the odds over on Raw, give Raw some more star power. They have like built up like Bobby Lashley is like a good heel, and now Big E is like a huge star at the moment too. So he could definitely go over there, and I could see some people like Seth Rollins going over, maybe even Finn Balor. Um, but yeah, I think he's the perfect pick right now, and just simply because of him being the reason, like I have him at number one because he is a former world champion, and the fact that his booking has been so bad, I just see it. I could see it happening. I see it being like number two or number three pick for sure.
I 100% agree with you. I think he 100% deserves it. Um, he I think he deserves better, and I think he'll get that on SmackDown. And I think him and Roman would put on great matches. Uh, I believe him and they met last year at Survivor Series. I think they could run that back. Um, put him up with Seth Rollins if Seth Rollins doesn't get drafted. Uh, there's a lot of talent on SmackDown that could put on good matches with Drew, and they deserve it, and he deserves it because he's way more talented than they've been showing him to be as of late. And I think a brand switch would do him incredible justice.
Indeed, indeed. Um, well, yeah, that is our top 10 list of people who we think would be the most beneficial uh, uh, picks in the draft for like a brand switch and whatnot. Um, yeah, is there anything in closing that you want to add in?
Um, only thing I would add is if you're listening, please tune in to the pod tomorrow when we do our weekly review of wrestling this week. I think we got a lot to say because a lot of good stuff happened this week. Um, I think it'll be an incredible listen. It'll be a good listen for anybody that is subscribed to us or listens to our videos.
Indeed. I agree with that. Just for once, I actually have, I got all my notes here, and I actually have some positive things to say about Monday Night Raw,
Exactly.
which is it's like hell froze over. But uh, but no, yeah, definitely tune in tomorrow, or or at least whenever we get the video uploaded. Tune into the podcast once we have recorded it and whatnot, and once again, just listen to our opinions. We we I can't speak English today. We got a lot of good things to say. Um, Obviously, not everything was perfect, but there's a lot of good in here. Uh, so yeah, but yeah, this is our new installment. We're going to be doing some top 10 lists, probably one a week, if we have the time for it, obviously. But um, yeah, expect another one of these out next week, and
Yep.
we'll be covering a different topic each week, and obviously we'll still be doing the podcast. So um, I guess with that said, we'll go ahead and close out. This was our top 10 list for beneficiaries in the draft. Who would be most beneficial in changing brands? So uh, from Diavolo,
And Lunchbox.
thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.